thought for the day. Well, actually, I do. It's from Abraham Lincoln, and it says, nearly all people can stand adversity, but if you want to test a person's character, give them power. Abraham Lincoln. And getting back to the stuff at hand here. Today I've got two readings. The reading from the Science of Mind Daily Guides is aimed directly at people who are primarily members of Centers for Spiritual Living, or the religious science, aka Science of Mind community. It's directly aimed at them. However, I know, as I said before, a lot of people are not part of that community. They may be New Thought, they may not be part of the New Thought, not to be confused with New Age, by the way. They're not part of the New Thought community, but they're interested in a lot of the stuff that we publish and we read and, in our philosophy. So because of that, I went back to the January edition and I found something that's in there every other month. And I usually read it in the course of 2 months anyway. It's called Murphy's Dogma. Murphy's Dogma it's actually written by Bob Lukin, who is Murphy's human, okay? But he pretends to be Murphy, and he calls him Murphy the Human Whisperer. So Murphy the Human Whisperer watches over his human, Reverend Bob Lukin, when he isn't working on the column. Yeah, dogs are really friendly like that, right? And then he says, you can send your questions if you want. And if you want that, I'll send it to you. But this one is called The Mole and the Hole. The overall title is Murphy's Dogma, Pause with Perspective. This particular episode, it's every other month here. The Mole and the Hole. He says, because I'm a dog, I don't have the same fondness for cats that humans do. But I confess I developed a great respect for them. Every morning, a brown cat named Nutmeg leaves the house across the street, comes over to my yard, jumps the fence, and heads back out to the other side so that he can sit about 50 feet from a hole in the ground. He sits hour after hour, watching that hole. Twice in the last week, he says, I watched a mole leave the hole as Nutmeg planned his attack. Twice Nutmeg came within inches of catching the mole. But Nutmeg never said, guess I'll quit since I'm not much of a hunter. Nutmeg never went off in a corner to brood about his past failures. He never complained to other cats about how unfair life is. He never blamed his failures on the weather or other conditions. His failures were simple failures that had no special meaning. Says, one day I noticed Nutmeg sitting in a mailbox across the street. I never saw the mole again. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like if humans didn't make so much of their successes and their failures. Most of the humans I know make up stories to explain and justify their successes and failures. Sometimes I think the stories are just like the hole that hid the mole. They only hide and protect the storyteller for a little while. And that is Murphy, the Human Whisperer. He says, there's no need to hide and wait. Keep trying and you will achieve your goal. That, my friends, is Murphy, and it's for general consumption. And if you want to carry on listening and you're not part of the Science of Mind community, please do so. But if you are, then please listen. It's called Probability Becomes Inevitability. First quote is Pablo Neruda, who says, you can cut all the flowers, but you cannot keep spring from coming. You can cut all the flowers, but you can't keep spring from coming. And listen carefully to this one. It's from Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called Life. He says, miracles never happen. Why? Every manifestation of faith through prayer, every wonder and sign that has followed the devotional life has been a logical, inevitable, and irresistible result of some cause set in motion in the life principle, and that's capitalized. And that was actually on page 14, paragraph 2 of This Thing Called Life. So what he's not saying that things don't happen that we can't explain to some extent. What he's saying is that there is a cause behind everything that happens, and that when you pray with faith and seeming miracles happen, there is a reason for it. The reason is that your faith, your belief, your emotions plus your feelings were strong enough to make that happen, or somebody else's faith was enough to make that happen. So that's what he's saying. He isn't saying that things like Lourdes don't happen. What he's saying is there is a reason behind everything that happens. Okay? And this is a good friend, Reverend Raymond, who says, today we pick up, well, where we left off yesterday, as we explore making our vision inevitable. The vision he's talking about is Centers for Spiritual Living's vision, really, a world that works for everyone. He says, are we embodying science of mind, as Ernest Holmes stated in his Sermon by the Sea, his famous sermon or talk that he gave at Asilomar not long before he passed, actually. He says, considering how we live and practice, can we indeed make a world that works for all, inevitable, that works for all, and that it's inevitable and it's 100% guaranteed? And he says, before you answer, gather the receipts. Then he says, well, what are the receipts? What are the testimonials of answered prayers, community success, and personal and collective manifestations? What's the gospel of you, me, we, and us? And then he quotes the Gospel of Matthew. It says, as expressed in Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, you will recognize them by their fruits. I think it says by their fruits you will recognize them in the version I have, but same thing. If you're being interviewed on a 20 or 60-minute segment, what would you say when asked? What is the evidence of our practice, both individually and collectively, within the movement? Science of Mind movement he's talking about. And remember the importance of surrendering to the uncontrollable mystery, where no matter how carefully you follow a recipe, the only thing that is inevitable is that you will have cooked something, right? Its deliciousness isn't guaranteed and depends largely on who eats it, right? That's kind of wacky because I experimented with making my own dough for a quiche yesterday. Usually I buy the quiche dough, the pie crust, it's called, I guess. But recently I've been so disenchanted by the ingredients in that stuff. And when I look at things like hydrogenated lard and then numbers that are colors, which I have to go and look up and see how they are, I was put off completely. So I thought, I am going to make my own. I did. Was it perfect? No. Did it work? Yes. Am I going to do it again? Yes. Will it be better next time? I certainly hope so. Then he says, in each episode of Chopped, the chefs inevitably prepare a meal. One of them will inevitably win that episode, and all but that one will inevitably be chopped. That is the nature of the show. He says, how can we engage this thing called life by changing our mental equivalents in such a way that we make our desired outcome more likely today than it was yesterday? How do we make it inevitable? Now, I'm going to say, not everybody's going to agree with him, but to some extent, everybody should go along with him and say, hey, are we just playing the game of pretending, or are we serious about what we do? So let's get serious about what we do, and let's demonstrate to the world that scientific prayer does work. That's what he's saying, essentially. And as I said, this is to the Science of Mind community in particular, but you can also apply it to the New Thought community in general, unity, divine science, and so on. He gives us an affirmation. Today, it is inevitable that I will be love, joy, peace, wisdom, creativity, and the embodiment of a world that works for all. And what I would say is this. When I get that we do our spiritual work. every day. We do some meditation or take some quiet time, do some breathing, that we do actually use spiritual mind treatment. And that when we do use spiritual mind treatment, we believe that the outcome is going to happen. So when I pray for my prayer partners and the people they've asked me to pray for, then I need to go in there believing. Otherwise, it's just words, right? So I agree with them to that extent. But the very last thing anybody wants to do is beat yourself up. Go back to Murphy, who talks about, the cat. The cat did not beat itself up because it failed. It carried on. And apparently it succeeded because the mole never appeared again and the cat didn't go back to the hole. So, persistence, 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 belief, belief, belief. So, hey, that's my lot for today. It's 10 minutes after 5. I just know for each and every person here, a truly wonderful rest of the day, whenever that day happens to be, whether it's an hour, it's 10 hours, it's 12 hours, depending where you are in the world. I'm just knowing that this is true. And I see it in my mind. I believe it. I feel people just expressing joy and love. And I release my word into a divine law that truly always says yes, and so it is. Reverend Lisa, 9:15 a.m., Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. Tomorrow, me, hopefully around about 5 p.m., whatever social media you find me on. And I'm just going to, later this evening, I will post it to more than the ones that they're on. Right now, it's mostly on Facebook and YouTube, but it's going to go a lot more. Okay. What have we got? We got LinkedIn. We got Tumblr, Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky. Yeah, there's a couple more there which escape me right now, but they're there. Oh, Instagram. And there you are. So, till next time, namaste.